Òtúbàjọ ẹ bá mi ṣá wọn látọwọ́ tó lè ṣe. Olùdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ kò ní nìyẹn. Wẹ́rẹ́ ní ẹ̀dínkẹ́ Kánò.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a lot of protocols has been done, so I'll be standing on what has already been established. But please permit me to specially recognize the chairman of this momentous occasion, His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Engineer Daniel, formerly the Executive Governor of the state, and a vain, cerebral, and visionary politician who was among the best governors of his time, and who sowed the seeds of development that are bound to germinate into progress and prosperity for the Gateway State. He is ably represented by Akogo Kola Lodipe, former Commissioner of Duties and later Commissioner for Water Forces of Ogun State. I salute you, sir. I greet all the representatives of the governors here present. I greet with humility our Royal Majesties and Royal Highnesses here present. Permit me to greet specially our chief host of this 30th anniversary celebration of the Odua People's Congress, Iba Gani Adams, the 15th annual Kakanfo of Yoruba land, whose vision, courage, tenacity, perseverance, intellect, and organizational acumen have helped to transform the OPC into a global entity. It is often said that a tree does not make a forest. Igi kan ìdágbóṣe àṣìkò òwe ni o. It is surely not true of organizations. A tree may not make a forest, but one tree can define a forest. In organizations, one person can make a difference. Indeed, behind the success of most of the great corporations and enterprises in the world is the story of one man's vision, persistence, and sacrifices. That is the story of the OPC and Iba Gani Adams. It is a story that ought to be the subject of study by students of history, psychology, and organizations. That is, if they are not already doing so. The inspiration for the establishment of OPC derived from the 1993 annulment of the June 12 presidential election, clearly won by Chief M.K. Abiola. In its 30 years of existence, the organization has faced all manner of challenges and tribulations, ranging from vicious violent factional conflicts, rejection by the very people it intended to serve, harassment by the police, hatred by the powers that be at the federal level, betrayals, numerous cases of treachery and irredeemable polarization among the members. Incredibly, the organization did not collapse, it did not diminish. Rather, it has continued to grow in leaps and bounds. It has continued to blossom, and today we are celebrating the success of a global organization with representation in almost every state of Nigeria and 96 countries across all the continents of the world. It has been an epic journey, but today we can happily say that the OPC has grown into a valuable element of the Nigerian ecosystem. The little mustard seed that was grown 30 years ago has grown into an oak tree. So also as Iba Gani Adams, from humble beginnings as the publicity secretary of the Bushi local government branch of Campaign for Democracy, he has grown into the national coordinator of the OPC, has grown into a global icon and the field marshal of the Yoruba race. I congratulate you, sir, on this special occasion of the 30th anniversary of the founding of the OPC. It is my prayer, as indeed the prayer of all men of goodwill, that you and this unique organization shall continue to blossom and attain the goals which you have set for yourself. You shall celebrate more, and some of us will be here to celebrate your 40th, 50th, 60th, one great art into. Permit me to express my sincere gratitude to Ibagani Adams and the organizing committee of this anniversary celebration for allowing me to speak at this joyous occasion. It is an honor of monumental proportions. I would like to think that my qualification for this assignment was the lecture I gave some time ago in February at a virtual conference of the Yoruba Wonders, an affiliate of the OPC. From his robust contributions to the discussion, it was obvious that Are was impressed with my presentation. As they say, the reward for good work is for work. I thank you, sir, for your appreciation and for this honorable assignment. You will have noticed that I have not advertised any topic for my lecture. The Are and the organizing committee inadvertently gave me two liberties. One, they did not specify any theme for me to speak on. Secondly, they called me a guest speaker, not lecturer, which means that I don't have to stay too long here and bore this constellation of dignitaries. I will therefore be speaking on the topic of my own choice. Of course, I have to be mindful of its relevance to this historic occasion and the mission of the organization whose 30th anniversary we are celebrating. I wish to spend the next few minutes to talk about the future of the Yoruba in Nigeria. The future of the Yoruba in Nigeria. Since I'm not a prophet, there's nothing that I'm going to say that will be infallible or inscrutable. All I want to present is my apprehension, in fact, fear about the future of Yoruba in Nigeria. Let me start by saying that Yorubas are the most vulnerable of all the nationalities in Nigeria. The most vulnerable of all the nationalities. Those access and features within the Yoruba region is distinctive, progressive, and endearing image and the scaffolding of its vulnerability. By virtue of history, geography, leadership, and providence, Yoruba land is the most commercially viable of all the zones in Nigeria. The two states with the highest internally generated revenue, IGR, are Lagos and Ogun State. They are all both in the Southwest. The Southwest is blessed with very rich agricultural lands, massive forests, long coastline, numerous mineral resources, most educated population, and if not the most westernized, but surely the most sophisticated and social-based sector. Interestingly, it is also the most peaceful zone in the country, with tolerant, accommodating, and cosmopolitan people. It is the only zone without militants, bandits, terrorists, or indeed any active or sustained conflict in the last 50 years. The last time there was a sustained conflict in the Southwest was during the wet year period of the early 60s. These are the attributes that make the region very attractive to all those from other parts of the country who desire to make a living, occupy, and even pillage. We saw in their times the dangers that accompany the attractiveness of this region during Buhari's second time. While the Fulani herdsmen, encouraged obviously from the highest level, were bringing mayhem to our zone, kidnapping, killing, and destroying, some settlers among are plotting to take over power in the epicenter of Yoruba prosperity. No other zone was faced with such attacks from within and without. While the tempo of these attacks may have abated, we can only forget to our peril that there are those who still believe that it is their manifest destiny to dig the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean, as well as those who see the glittering cities of the Southwest as their ultimate prize. They will not stop scaling. The Southwest will continue to face three types of threats. The external, from people, forces like the Fulani herdsmen, the endogenous, those are in between, those are people with regular crime, kidnapping, armed robbery, and the invasive settlers who want to take over our land. But the most dangerous threat for which we must all be prepared is the political. Today, the Yoruba man is the president, and all talk about Yoruba nation and restructuring seems to have become whispers. For some, the fact of the Yoruba presidency seems to have taken care of the reason for the agitation for separation or restructuring. If I stop the trumpet, the Yorubas are no longer marginalized. That is from the point of view of people, and cannot justify any more agitation for such aspirations. Others see things differently. Whatever our view on the place of our presidential incumbency or the trajectory of Yoruba interest and history, we need to be aware, and this is the point of my paper, we need to be aware that the Yoruba will be in the political wilderness for 40 years. Whether President Tinubu gets re-elected in 2027 or not. After Tinubu, 40 years before our term. That is even if democracy and the unwritten rule of rotation of the presidency survives. If in just a period of 18 years of political exclusion after the presidency of Olusegun Obasanjo, we suffer so much marginalization under Jonathan and attempted occupation under Buhari, how shall we survive 40 years in the political wilderness? While we enjoy the benefits and privileges of the Tinubu presidency, let us be mindful that the road ahead, if not for us, but for our children and children's children, will be bumpy, if not dangerous or both. The question that should agitate us, those who care about the future, is what shall we do to prepare for what we know will come, given the culture of power in Nigeria. I shall try in the remaining part of this presentation to sketch the options available to us to survive what I can call our wilderness experience for 40 years. Interestingly, it was the same thing for 40 years that the Jews spent getting to the promised land. Two categories of options come readily to mind, what I call the strategic and the tactical. The strategic option has three distinct varieties. The first one is secession or separation, which is to pursue, that is to survive in the next 40 years, is to pursue secession or separation so that we can have a Yoruba nation that is autonomous and can plan its own future. The second option is to seek restructuring, which involves creating new federating units, e.g. from states to zones or regions, and shifting substantial proportions of the powers of the central government to these new entities. The third option is to seek a new constitution, which, while retaining the states as the federating units, would devolve great powers from the central government. Let me begin with the viability of separation and secession. From my interaction with substantial numbers of Yoruba elites, there is substantial support for the idea of dissolving the Nigerian nation. There is general skepticism about the capacity of the Nigerian Federation as it is to facilitate the opportunities that are bound in the country into policies, programs, and program implementation that will lead to sustainable development and prosperity. There's almost a general consensus that Yoruba development has been held back by this Nigerian contraption, and that it will be maximized by separate existence. The problem, however, is that very few know how to go about it, about getting the separation that we want. Many have been discouraged by the fact that the struggle for Yoruba sovereignty has been hijacked by amorphous groups who actually do not know the gravity of the efforts required to attain this sovereignty. Given Nigeria's present constitution and the experience of Biafra, we can safely assume that there is no peaceful way of opting out of the Nigerian Federation. It is also true that there is no major desire yet among Yoruba for a violent separatist agenda. The way out for those who desire a sovereign Yoruba nation, therefore, is first and foremost to pursue constitutional amendments that will, one, entrench the right of any of the federating units to separate from the federation. If you do not have that in your constitution, then you cannot go. So what we should be doing to prepare for the future is to pursue a constitutional amendment that will entrench the principle of separation in the constitution. The second principle that we must entrench is that of a referendum that will allow every nation to determine the balance of preference of the nationalities that will be desired to see. The referendum will tell you the majority or the minority want separation. The second major option is to pursue restructuring of the country's political program, in which case, through a constitutional amendment, you have to do it through the constitution as well. Everything is through the constitution. This is the idea of moving from the current arrangement in which states are the federating units to one in which large units, such as zones or regions, with concurrent devolution of powers from the center to the new political units. I notice that this is the preference of the Bagani and the OPC. I dare say, with all due respect, that the idea of restructuring is an exercise in nostalgia. It is unviable. It is an unviable and impracticable option. Political reintegration is a real phenomenon in policies, both domestic and international. In the years since the Second World War, the only example of political reintegration I can find is that of East and West Germany. What you commonly find in abundance are cases of disintegration of older political arrangements into new ones. At least we can count 30 countries that have emerged from the collapse of old ones. But we can only find any two countries that have merged to form new ones. The reality is that men do not easily give up the freedom and privileges which they already have and which they might have struggled to acquire. States are not likely to sacrifice their identity and privileges which they already have for the sake of a new, even if more rewarding identity. Even in the Southwest, where restructuring is loudest, I doubt if any state will want to go back. Will Osun State go back to Oyo? Will Ekiti go back to Ondo? Or shall we all go back to Ibadan? What will happen to all the permanent secretaries, all the chief justices, all the commissioners and so on? Those are existential realities that will hamper restructuring. It will therefore seem to me that the only realistic strategic option is to lead the struggle for a new constitution, which will reflect true federalism and devolve powers in a profound and comprehensive way to the states as they are, to the states, not to any arrangement. Such functions or agencies as the police, control of mineral resources, control of inland waterways, road infrastructure, power generation will be devolved to the states, thereby reducing the powers and attractiveness of the federal government. Such a constitutional review will also provide the opportunity to insert provisions for separation and referendum. Since it is obvious that constitutional amendment or a new constitution is a prerequisite for attaining any of the three strategic options without the need to fight the war, it is therefore imperative that we should now invest, Yoruba should invest in a new constitutional review process. We must begin today with a Southwest Constitutional Conference, which will examine and articulate the preferences available to promote and protect the interests of the zone. While we pursue the strategic options of true federalism, we must simultaneously give effect to what I have designated as the tactical options. And this refers to developmental policies and programs which are within the zone's partial or exclusive control. The golden goal here must be for the zone to seek self-sufficiency. We have infinite acreage of rich fertile lands across the zone, yet we have become dependent on other zones for things we have the capacity to produce in exponential proportion. Do we really have to any excuse for buying yam, tomatoes, onions, plantains, and bananas from other lands? Tragically, most of the farm settlements established in the 60s have either been abandoned or are operating below par. Recent reports on national farm settlement, which was a peer of the farm settlement scheme and the Nigerian, paints a picture of abandonment and inaccessibility. The story of Fashola is interesting because the place was killed by the military government because they used to go and just pick up cows. Whenever they have a party, they just go there and take out without replacement. They have the best cows. The reality is that we can grow all these things, including breeding cows and livestock. If the Fulanis are ready to kill and name because they want to eat our grass, why can't we also develop and breed our own cows? On us is on the governors to begin to look at self-sufficiency in food production. We need to give greater priority in our developmental agenda to agriculture. Food security is the foundation of all security. Secondly, we need to intensify the integrated development efforts which DOM is all about. We need to interconnect all states and towns with rail and road networks to enhance commercial interactions and grow the economy of the zone. We need to aim at power independence by generating our own electricity. We need to build our telecommunication network. And we need to invest more in industrialization on the basis of comparative advantage. Thirdly, we must work on a comprehensive and efficient security network to prevent the repeat of the invasion of our forests and combat the escalating criminality in our towns and villages. The Amotekun must be strengthened and the OPC incorporated into Southwest security architecture. I'm happy that the Arab has offered the services of the OPC to assist the governments of the states to rid the zone of kidnappers and other criminal elements within 6 months. I wish to advise that this offer should be accepted. Eminent Chairman, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to call on all our leaders, governors, members of various parliaments, your Royal Majesties, those spiritual and temporal captains of industry, and all those who hold position of responsibility to think of the race before any other affiliation. We must not allow policies of religion or squabbles about hierarchy to stand in the way of the historic and noble project of building our zone into strong and prosperous one. May God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Please, another big round of applause for him. Put your hands together. Thank you very much. What a short, comprehensive one. God bless you, sir. We don't have the whole day. Before I call on the book reviewer, permit me to bring up for like 2-3 minutes the representative